Hi, welcome to the webinar. Today we'll be talking about giving your development team wings. My name is Maja Jaakson. I'm a front-end developer at Knowit Experience Bergen. And I'm also part of a group here called Frontiers that organizes events and initiatives around front-end development and UX. And one of our core themes is developer-designer collaboration and interaction. And that will be the focal point for the webinar today. So I'm joined by Jimmy Dahlqvist, who is a developer and senior cloud architect. He's worked with a number of large organizations like Sony, Infor, and IKEA. He's passionate about chat ops and voice assistants. He's an AWS APN ambassador, and he's really excited to share his knowledge and experience with us today about leading a development team at Sony. So, hi, Jimmy.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm fine.
Good. So I guess we'll get right into the questions. Can you maybe give us a little bit of scene setting, like context surrounding working at Sony? So like what product you guys were working on, what challenges you guys were facing, that kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. What we were working on an feedback applications for the end consumers, so the people actually owning the mobile phone. Part of that application was we had one Android application that the users downloaded to have on their phones to give us feedback. And then we had a web app running in the browser that was for the administrators and the people handling the feedback on the Sony side, so to say. So that was what we were developing, and we were challenged with some UI problems. We were giving the normal Sony way was to allocate the designer like 15% into your team, and the designer was then shared among a lot of different teams. And for us, this proved to be quite of a challenge in form of how we developed the UI for the two different applications.
Okay, so what was it that you found challenging about it?
The main problem, I think, was that we were giving a blueprint by the designer. This is how I want the application to look, and this is how I want the interactions to be. And first of all, the designer we had was more of an interaction designer. So she designed, okay, this is the flow of the application, and this is how we're going to navigate, and this is where the buttons are going to be, and this is what they're going to look like. And then everything was handed off to a graphical designer that did more of the graphical part, so to say, creating images and so on. The main problem was that when we're giving a blueprint, since Sony was, at that time, we were not developing that many web applications and not that many web applications in React that we were using. So when we handed the blueprint, our front-end developers tried to follow the blueprint to the exact. The problem with that was that some parts was really hard to do in the web design. So I was often told by the front-end developers that, okay, I can do it like this, exactly like this, as the blueprint suggests, and we always get yelled at when we don't follow the blueprint. I can do it exactly like this, but it's going to take me 3 weeks. Or I can do this little tweak. It looks almost as the blueprint, and it takes me 1 day. Since we only had the designer like 15% into the team, the iteration time for those changes were really, really long, because we had to go back to the design. She had to redo things. She had to look at it, and she had to think, and then come back with a new blueprint. So the iterations were really, really slow.
Yeah.
And that was really challenging.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you really did know where the kind of bottleneck was, like what the productivity was. Yeah. So how did other people think? Because that was the point at which you considered having a designer doing.
The suggestion then was to bring on the designer 100% into the team, have a designer that knew both interaction design and graphical design, that could do both of those roles, and have that person sit in the team 100%, to be part of our morning stand-ups, to be able to sit down with the front-end developers immediately, say, okay, this is how we're going to do it, and do some live interactions. You did changes in the code, and the designer could look at it immediately on the screen and say, okay, this looks good, or no, don't even go there. And so the iterations became faster, and the output was way better.
Okay, cool. How did people, like, how did your development team feel about it? How did
the team was pretty much on board. What we did have to do was to fight upper management. This was not the normal Sony way to do it, to allocate a designer 100% into a specific team. And we were not handling that big of a part. We were not part of a phone project. We were not making money. We were only costing money. So that was not the normal way. So we had to try and convince our managers over and over again that this is a good idea. Pointing at the problems that we had, that, okay, this iteration takes so long, this iteration takes so long. We had great support from our closest manager. He kind of saw the problem immediately and was on our side. And after a while, we actually got an okay, we got thumbs up. Okay, bring on a contractor. Here are 2 people. Please choose. Okay, I don't know. But the team, they were pretty much on board from the beginning, finding out that, okay, this is really important. This is what we are lacking. We have every other competence in the team, but we can't do design. But
yeah. Okay. So how did things change within the team?
I think what we did was we were able to design and develop the UI in a really good iterative way, I think. Instead of having a designer working on a blueprint for like 4 or 5 days and then handing it over to us saying, this is how you're going to do it. And then, okay, we can't do it like that, because that will be really, really hard. We could have short iterations where designers sat down with a front-end developer that had the problem at the point. And they could do live changes and live testing and do changes in the code, see the change on the screen. Iteration speed was way better. So that was a main change that we got. Also, it brought on some diversity into the team. This was a skill that we were lacking. So we learned some new design skills, and the team picked up some good things about that. And we had some really good laughs. We got a really good designer. She was really humorous.
Cool.
We wanted to bring on a QR code to be able to do quick lookups in the web app, and the answer back was just no. And then she said, sent us a really funny comic strip, and it was, in the end, it was just no. You're not going to have any QR codes.
Yeah, can't get everything you want.
No.
Was it like, so you say that things, went much more quickly, but was there like any kind of acclamation period? Like, did everybody start working together really well kind of out of the box, or did they have to kind of learn how to work together?
It was a new way of working for us, but we were lucky because our team was not that. The people in our team had not worked with Sony for that long, so they didn't have the knowledge and the mindset from the Sony old way of working. So it was kind of fluent, and we get into the work pretty fast. Of course, there were some acclamations that, okay, you don't have a complete design that you're going to follow. You have a design that is partially ready, and everyone had to be prepared that, okay, there might be changes along the way, because now we don't have a designer that have been working on this design for 2 weeks and now handing it to us. So now we have a designer that have been working with this for 1 day or a couple of hours, and now you're going to try and implement it like this. Of course, there are going to be changes, and I think the way we were working became more and more iterable. doing smaller parts, evolving the UI as we went, instead of having a fixed, completely ready design before even starting coding. So yeah. I think we became into a more agile way of working when it came to UI and how to develop the UI for the applications.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like, at least in terms of the Scrum model, the whole point is to have all of the competencies within the team, right?
Yeah,
so that you can have these short cycles and stuff.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So how did everybody feel about it? Was everybody pleased, or were there any drawbacks to the new setup?
I can't find any drawbacks on this way of working. And I think the front-end designers were pleased because it was easy to have a conversation around the UI instead of trying to talk to a piece of paper and say, okay, I want you to change. So everyone was, at my experience at least, satisfied with this new way of working. And as you say, we had every other competence within the team. We had developers, we had architects, we had front-end developers, back-end developers, we had test, we had everything, but there was no UI design, and it was so weird that we had a almost complete team, but not fully.
Piece that's missing. Yeah,
it was definitely the puzzle piece that we were missing at the point.
Yeah. So, okay, so no negative consequences at all. Then it seems like it's almost obvious that this is how things should be done, I would think. So were there any changes that came about at Sony as a result of that, or?
Not that I'm aware of. I still think they work in the old-fashioned way with a design team that is not connected to each team. They still allocate people to smaller project, even though the organization within Sony has changed a lot since I left the company, so I can't really give you a super good answer to that. But when I was still there was no major changes to the structure and how design was made. No.
Okay. And what do you feel that you learned about, I guess, developer designer interaction, about like team dynamics generally?
I think we often talk about that we should have all competencies within the team. We talk about DevOps way of working. We have development and operations. We bring everyone together into the team, and we have all parts. But I really don't hear a lot of people talking about bringing design into the development team. We are bringing everything else in. We're bringing security guys in. We're bringing testers into the team. We're building this really diverse team when it comes to skill set. But I never ever hear anyone say, yeah, we're going to bring on 2 designers, or we're going to bring on 1 designer. That is something I never hear teams talk about to that much. And for me, I think that is the missing part. If we want to have a self-sustained team that can do the entire development, then we need to be able to do the UI design and so on as well. Then, of course, when working in large organizations, there are design guidelines that you need to follow, and you can't go out and do whatever you want and be totally crazy in the UI, because things still need to look cohesive and the same way. So we can't be that crazy in the UI that we could in this team, actually, because we didn't have to follow the design guidelines to that strict, since we're not part of the phone project and so on. So we could be a little bit more crazy and be a little bit more wild in the UI.
Yeah, okay.
But I think it's really good. I think you can learn a lot from having a designer in the team, because you pick up, by having a diverse skill set in the team, you pick up on these skills. You pick up on the design skills, and the designers as well, they learn from the developers. They start to understand, okay, what things are easy to do in web design, and what parts are hard to do in design and in code. So I think that learning goes both way by having the skill sets in the team, definitely.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, because we talked before about how this group that we have at Knowit Experience Bergen, we have the suspicion that like if we give developers and designers more opportunities to collaborate and to actually work together, that we will get this kind of like cross-pollination where like it's exactly like you say, like designers will learn about the kinds of limitations, even in terms of just kind of like what available frameworks there are for front-end developers to work in. Because that, like, once you know what a certain framework on a project looks like, then there are all sorts of design possibilities that are kind of eliminated. And that's a good thing, right? Because it really narrows the scope of what it is that what you can do, right?
Definitely.
And that's often like the problem that that front-end developers are faced with. It's like, it seems like it's going to be this consistent thing, but then it's like, oh, there's this like this one bit of like strange spacing here, like why is this different from this? I'm like, but if everybody kind of agrees on a framework from the beginning, that's really helpful. And also like I had one opportunity where I used to work, it was just like a really tiny project, just 2 weeks, but work like 100% with a designer. And it was like not only like the most beautiful thing that I've made, at least like up until that point. I was really proud with what we produced, but I also learned about like web typography and stuff like that, and not from the like the technical point of view, but like design principles for like combining different font weights and that kind of stuff, right? So so that definitely like squares with my experience as well. So I really hope that like, yeah, people will take this to heart and like see that it works.
Definitely.
Yeah. So do you have, okay, so there's a couple of things. So you said that like adding a designer was a good thing in terms of like, this cross-pollination of skills.
Definitely.
Is there anything else that was good about adding a designer as opposed to say like an extra developer? Or
I think the designer came. I think we should try and create really diverse teams. And with diversity, I'm talking about personalities, and trying to have a team where you can have a mix of personalities and not only have those cowboy devs that I kind of align with myself, but also have people that are really structured and every kind of personality in between. I think bringing the designer in, I think designers have their mindset is a bit different from developers. So I think definitely diversity when it comes to personality in the teams, trying to mix and match as much as possible. Don't create a team with 10 cowboy devs, because that will probably end really bad. If you have 10 people that are super structured and have to do everything super structured according to by the book, then I think will have problems as well. So you need to have this mix with personalities, and I think bringing a designer in with that mindset and that way of thinking about applications, and that how it looks is super important, and that kind of mindset and skill set. I think that is creates diversity, and that will bring dynamics into the team, definitely.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so it's like, I guess maybe like 3 different kinds of diversity then, because you have like the skill-based diversity, right? And then just like temperament or personality.
Yeah.
So even just the fact that she's like funny and like brings a different personality in, but also this idea that they have like a different problem-solving approach, say different kind of like mental model. So yeah, that's kind of neat that it's like that adding one person can kind of like change things up so much.
Yeah, it can actually.
That's cool. So given the experiences that you had, is there anything that you do differently these days?
If I get the chance to put together a team and we're going to develop UI, I will most definitely fight for to incorporate the designer into the team 100% from the beginning, because we're going to gain so much from that, or at least 50% if you can't fill a 100% position at the moment. Having a designer like 10% will not.
It doesn't.
I don't think that doesn't fly. So putting a team together right now, I definitely fight for bringing on design from the early stages into the team, and not saying, okay, we can wait with design, we can do that later, let's bring on developers first. Start by bringing a designer into the team with the first developers, definitely.
Okay, cool. And is there anything else that you would like, if someone were setting up a team, any like advice that you would give them, or any insights that you think are worth sharing?
I think diversity, definitely, when it comes to personality. Don't bring on too many people that are way too similar in the personality and the mindset and the way of working, because you don't get good dynamics, I think, from such a team. I think you need to have different temperaments and different personalities. You need your cowboy devs to do quick and dirty POCs, and you need your super structured persons to make sure that you don't go way too crazy. To try to rub off on us cowboy devs. Yeah. So you need a diverse personality, and make sure that you have a diversity in skill set as well. Bringing on a lot of back-end developers and think that, okay, one of those can do front end, I don't think that will work either. You need to have the diversity in personality, you need to have the diversity in skill set, and you have to have diversity in the way people are thinking about problems and problem solving. Yeah,
okay. I guess it's kind of nice too for the people who are on these teams, because like you say, they rub off on one another. So then you emerge from one of these teams with like skills that you didn't have.
Yeah, definitely. You will end up with you learn from each other every day, and I think a day without learning is not a day that is worth having. You should try to learn something new every day.
Yeah, I feel like most developers.
And being in such diverse team, I think you will learn things every day. Even if it's not work related, you will learn something else.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks a lot for talking to us.
Thank you.
I think we oh boy. Well, we can't take questions now, but I guess that if anybody wants to ask us questions, we can maybe make our email addresses available in the sign up form, and then you can send us whatever questions they have. And potentially, if we get a lot of interesting questions, maybe we can have a second webinar session where we discuss some of those questions.
Definitely.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks very much. And thanks for attending the webinar. And until next time.